Welcome to your next lesson on creating your seating chart. In this lesson, we will go over what your seating chart does, when to begin creating it, your table seating options, how to seat your bridal party, things to keep in mind when creating your seating chart, how to assign seats using seating cards or charts, and a sample layout. A seating chart is quite simply actually. What it does is arrange your family and friends as to where they will be seated during the reception. Creating your seating chart is one of the last major tasks you will tackle, and you should create it once all of your RSVPs have been received. Now let's talk about your seating options. As you can see by the pictures, the most common seating arrangements are composed of round or rectangular tables or a mixture of both. The first picture shows a standard 60-inch round table with 6 seats. As you can tell, there's quite a bit of space between the seats, so I suggest that 6 be the fewest amount of people you'd want to sit at this type of table. As you can see from the middle picture, 8 is the ideal number of people you would want to sit at a 60-inch round table. It's not crowded, but also feels full. Now, when you look at the third picture, this 60-inch round table is set for 10 guests. While the guests are definitely close to each other, everyone should have room to move their chairs in and out and not bump elbows when eating. I would not recommend putting more than 10 people at a 60-inch round table. Then we move on to rectangular tables. The most common rectangular table used is a 6-foot by 30-inch table. This size table, as you can see from the first picture, will seat 6 to 8 people, 8 being if you have a guest on each end of the table. And as you can see from the second photo, an 8-foot by 30-inch table can comfortably seat 8 to 10 people. Now, when it comes to where you and your new spouse and your bridal party should sit, you really do have a slew of options to choose from. So let's discuss each one individually and discover what might best suit you. A sweetheart table. A sweetheart table is a table that the bride and groom sit at alone. You can place this table at the edge of the room, or you can place it in the middle of the room so you're surrounded by all of your guests. Whereas a head table, you can opt to have a slightly larger rectangular table that seats the bride and groom in the middle and their bridal party on each side of them. Or perhaps you may choose to have a sweetheart table raised and the bridal party sitting in front of them. But those are not your only options. Some couples choose to sit at a rectangular table with their maid of honor and best man and have the wedding party sit at separate tables entirely, perhaps with their spouses and significant others. I've also seen couples use a long rectangular table and have just their parents sit alongside them. And I've also seen couples choose to have 10-person tables, either round or square, and leave 2 seats open at every table so that they could join their guests and sit beside them to chat for a while going through the reception. Now let's talk about a couple of things to keep in mind while you're preparing your seating chart. And the first one being putting divorced parents at the same table. And this one requires a little tactfulness. Traditionally, the bride and groom's parents will sit at the same table along with any grandparents, the officiant and their spouse, and any siblings not in the wedding party. However, if your parents are divorced and after speaking with them they do not want to sit at the same table, have no worries. You can always let each set of parents host their own tables and feel free to set it up in a way that makes everyone comfortable and best suits everyone's needs. Next, if your family is anything like mine, then there are members that do not get along and would most likely prefer to sit apart, and that's okay. Again, you want everyone to be as comfortable as possible at the reception. In this case, you'll want to keep them as far apart as possible, as they will definitely appreciate it. Make sure you take into consideration when you begin planning your seating chart. And you'll want to make sure that, and again, it's a Now let's go over assigning seats. Most couples choose to assign their guests to tables rather than seats. However, if you're choosing a more formal affair or a black tie wedding with multiple courses served, you may opt to assign your guests to both a table and a seat. If you want people to chat, mingle, and catch up at your reception, if you have a group of college buddies coming in, sit them near each other. Keep in mind that weddings also serve as mini family reunions for those family members who may not live close together. You'll definitely want to put them all at the same table so that they can catch up. Your seating arrangements should allow your guests to have fun at their tables, not being silent while poking at their food. The dreaded singles table. Lucky for you younger brides, this trend is kind of taboo now. But once upon a time, brides used to be under the impression that their wedding was the perfect time to play matchmaker, so they would discreetly sit individuals that they thought would be perfect for each other at what was known as a singles table. Now, while I'm all for setting up two individuals that you think will be perfect for each other, you can go ahead and seat them at the same table. Just don't put every other single friend at that table. This is your wedding, not the love connection. You wouldn't sit your single friends at a table full of married couples, nor a married couple at a table full of singles. Instead, try mixing it up with what people might have in common when it comes to the friends tables. And the kids table. And this one is actually quite easy. If you have many children at the wedding, sit them at a separate kids table near the front of the room so that their parents can keep an eye on them. And if the ring bearer and flower girl are the only children present at the wedding, then you can simply seat them with their parents. Also keep in mind, teenagers do not want to sit with the 5-year-olds at the kids table. Do yourself a favor, either sit them with their parents, or if you have enough teenagers, sit them all together. No one wants to be 17 years old driving their parents to the wedding just to find out they have to sit and entertain a bunch of children. While the teenagers are not there to babysit, you could, however, make this an option. If you wanted a child-free reception, but not necessarily a child-free wedding, you could always pay one or two of these teenagers to keep an eye on the young children during the ceremony and reception. Trust me, they just might take you up on this, as I'm sure they'll need the gas money. Now, for the majority of weddings, assigning your guests to tables but not specific seats at those tables is going to be fine. If you do decide to assign seats, you're going to need both escort cards, which get picked up at the entry and tell you your table number, and place cards, which are on the table and tell you which seat is yours. With assigned tables, you only need escort cards, or you can make things even easier and scrap the escort cards for a wedding seating chart, which is really just a big poster with a list of people's names and the table numbers on it. A chart also has the bonus benefit of not being able to get lost, which somehow always happens with escort cards, even when no one is leaving the room. So here's a sample layout. You'll see at the top is the bride and groom and the wedding parties table with the speakers on the left-hand side, whereas the restrooms are on the right. You would then see your VIPs and your elderly guests closest to the restrooms, followed by your friends and family tables, and then old college friends, colleagues, and your parents' friends. Now, I once saw a girl do this years ago, and I'm so glad it caught on. I swear by this method to all of my brides. It will keep you organized and easily allow you to make any changes without messing anything up. If you're having round tables, then you would take a white paper plate and write each table number on them separately. What you do next is get Post-it page markers and write each guest's name on a page marker. Then you can start sticking names to each plate to represent where everyone will sit. And if you need to change your mind, you simply unstick the Post-it and reposition it where you would like it to go. And you can also do the same thing with square tables. Just get a sheet of paper, simply draw a rectangle, and use the exact same method. Trust me on this one. It will save you at least 2 to 3 hours if you approach it this way. Keeping in mind, you'll want to do this once all of your RSVPs have been returned. So that's going to do it for this lesson, and I'll see you in the next.